21 hidden cruise tricks that cruise lines keep quiet about. Most cruise passengers lose money after they think they're done paying. Today, you'll see how cruise lines quietly control pricing, timing, and behavior, so you can spot the system and stop overpaying without changing how you travel. I cover cruise strategies like this every week because small details are what separate a smooth cruise from a frustrating one. Most people think choosing a cabin is a one-time decision. What actually happens afterward is where comfort is quietly lost or protected. 1. The cabin assignment illusion. Imagine booking early, carefully choosing your cabin, and assuming comfort is locked in. Behind the scenes, cruise lines often preserve flexibility inside their inventory systems, quietly reshuffling cabins as sailing dates approach. The purpose isn't deception, it's yield management, keeping higher value cabins available for upgrades or resale. What most passengers never realize is this: cabins aren't ranked by comfort. They're ranked by profit movement. A good deal cabin is frequently one the line expects to move again later. Comfort is secondary to inventory flow. The smart move is preventative. Choose cabins with low relocation risk, midship, standard layouts, surrounded by similar categories. Then check pricing and placement weekly. If prices drop or nearby cabins shift, call immediately. 2. Cruise pricing is not linear. Most travelers believe cruise prices steadily rise as ships fill. That belief quietly drains wallets. Cruise pricing moves in steps, flat for long stretches, then suddenly adjusted, based on booking velocity, not time. That's why identical cabins can swing hundreds of dollars within days. Cruise lines monitor demand thresholds. Once momentum hits a target, prices jump. But when bookings slow, prices often fall, even close to departure. Prices react. They don't progress. The winning strategy is simple. Book early to secure your cabin, then keep watching prices. Many lines allow repricing without cancellation. Call and ask to refare. If port days feel shorter than they used to, that's not your imagination. There's a business reason behind the schedule. 3. Why port times keep shrinking. Ever notice how port days feel rushed? Early arrival, early departure, barely enough time to explore? That's not accidental. Shorter port windows reduce fuel costs, limit liability, and quietly steer passengers toward cruise-sponsored excursions. The ship sells the promise of a full day, but the schedule is engineered to favor control and onboard revenue. Independent travelers feel this pressure most, especially those who value certainty over risk. Port time is engineered, not accidental. The solution starts before sailing. Compare itineraries by departure time, not just destination. Favor ports with late departures or overnight stays. Once ashore, do the farthest activity first, then work back toward the ship. 4. Drink packages aren't about alcohol. Drink packages aren't built around how much alcohol you consume. They're built around how predictable you become. Once you prepay, the cruise line knows your ceiling and your decision-making changes. Passengers obsess over break-even math. Cruise lines focus on behavior. Fewer spending decisions mean faster service and more money spent elsewhere. That's why packages feel liberating, even when they don't save money. Predictability is the product. Here's the rule that actually works. If tracking spending stresses you, a package may buy peace of mind. If you drink selectively, pay as you go, and monitor the first 2 days. When a cruise excursion costs more, it isn't always because it's better. Sometimes it's because it protects the cruise line. 5. Shore excursions. Safety versus markup. Cruise-sponsored excursions feel expensive for a reason. They bundle peace of mind. If a tour runs late, the ship waits. If something goes wrong, the cruise line absorbs responsibility. That protection is real. But so is the markup. What rarely gets explained is how thin the difference can be. Many cruise excursions are run by the same local operators you'd find independently, using the same buses and guides. The added cost isn't better quality. It's insurance and control. You're paying for certainty. The smart approach is selective use. In complex ports or far-flung destinations, the protection can be worth every dollar. In simple, walkable ports, independent tours often deliver identical experiences for less. 6. The loyalty program plateau. Cruise loyalty programs look generous. Priority boarding, small discounts, occasional upgrades. But after a certain point, the benefits stop improving while spending keeps climbing. Most passengers never see where that plateau begins. Loyalty is designed to reward consistency, not efficiency. Once you're invested, it's easy to ignore better options elsewhere because status feels earned. Perks peak sooner than spending. The smart move is to define your stopping point. Convert each tier's benefits into real dollars and time saved. If the next level doesn't clearly pay for itself, stop chasing it. Free money on board doesn't behave like real money, and the difference changes how people spend. 7. Onboard credit is behavioral engineering. Onboard credit feels like free money, but it doesn't behave like cash. Once labeled credit, people spend faster and question less. Cruise lines design it that way. Credits often expire quickly, pushing passengers toward easy, high-margin purchases like photos, spa services, or specialty dining. The intention isn't generosity, it's momentum. Faster spending reduces hesitation and increases total onboard revenue. Free rarely feels expensive. The smart move is pre-commitment. Decide how you'll use onboard credit before boarding. Apply it to fixed value items you'd consider anyway. 8. Dining reservations are tiered quietly. Ever notice how some passengers always land the best dining times? That's not chance. Dining access is quietly tiered based on loyalty status, cabin category, and booking timing, long before anyone boards. Prime slots create artificial scarcity. Once they appear full, most passengers settle, even though tables routinely open due to no-shows and schedule changes. Scarcity is staged. The workaround is persistence with timing. Check reservations immediately after boarding, then again the first evening. When asking staff, phrase it as what's likely to open, not what's available now. If upgrades exist, why aren't you offered one? The answer has nothing to do with availability. 9. Why you're rarely offered upgrades. Most passengers think upgrades are rare. They're not. They're delayed. Cruise lines often hold premium cabins until late in the booking cycle, waiting for moments when discounts won't upset earlier buyers. Openly advertising upgrades weakens pricing. Silence preserves it. That's why offers appear suddenly, quietly, and with short decision windows. Upgrades age like inventory. The smart strategy is patience. Watch for upgrade offers after final payment or during the first day on board. When asking, be specific about cabin categories, not vague about anything better. 10. Internet packages don't mean equal access. Premium internet packages don't guarantee equal access. At sea, bandwidth is rationed and prioritized. Some connections slow first when demand spikes, regardless of what you paid. Cruise lines sell speed. What they really manage is priority. Bandwidth is managed, not shared. The practical workaround is timing. If you only need email or messaging, lower tier plans often perform just as well. Schedule heavier tasks early morning or mid-afternoon. If spa prices seem inconsistent, that's intentional. They follow demand, not fairness. 11. Spa pricing follows a cycle. If you've noticed spa prices shifting during the week, that's by design. Spa services on board follow demand cycles, not fixed pricing. Early in the cruise, especially embarkation day, prices stay high to capture impulse buyers. As the week progresses and demand softens, discounts quietly appear. The service doesn't change, only the urgency does. Demand sets the price, not quality. The practical move is patience. Skip the first day spa rush and check pricing mid-cruise, especially on heavy port days. Ask staff when demand is typically lowest. Quick note: if these kinds of insider cruise details are useful to you, this channel is built around things cruise lines don't clearly explain. I post videos like this every week so people don't learn the hard way. 12. Automatic gratuities aren't the whole story. Automatic gratuities seem simple, but the system behind them is layered. While tips support crew wages, they're pooled and redistributed across teams, and in some cases offset guaranteed pay structures. This doesn't make the system dishonest, but it does mean your intent and the outcome don't always match. Many passengers assume tips flow directly to the individuals who help them most. The system spreads generosity broadly. The balanced approach is intentional tipping. Leave automatic gratuities in place, then add direct tips when service stands out. Kids sail free is technically true, but the total cost tells a different story. 13. Kids sail free, but costs don't. Kids sail free sounds straightforward until you look closer. The fare may disappear, but taxes, port fees, gratuities, dining upgrades, Wi-Fi, and excursions don't. For many families, the headline savings quietly shrink once real onboard costs appear. Cruise lines market the fare because it's the easiest number to remove. Everything else feels smaller when it's broken into pieces. Parents often don't notice the total until the final bill. Free fares still generate revenue. The practical move is full cost thinking. Before booking, price the cruise as if the kids weren't free at all, then subtract only the base fare. If the math still works, it's a win. 14. Medical care at sea works differently. A ship's medical center looks reassuring, clean, professional, efficient, but it doesn't operate like a hospital on land. Doctors are often independent contractors. Billing happens immediately, and insurance reimbursement is handled later, if at all. Most passengers assume their health coverage applies automatically. At sea, that assumption can get expensive fast. Even minor treatment can require upfront payment before care continues. At sea, payment comes first. The smart move is preparation. Carry a card with sufficient limit and travel medical insurance that explicitly covers cruise care. Keep digital copies of policies accessible offline. You don't need to gamble much to be noticed by the casino. You just need to behave in a certain way. 15. Casino tracking without heavy gambling. You don't have to love gambling to understand why cruise casinos matter. Casinos quietly track behavior, time spent, consistency, and perceived value. Not just how much you lose. That data feeds future offers, including discounted cruises and onboard perks. What most passengers miss is that losses aren't the only signal. Moderate, steady play often looks better than big, erratic bets. The system rewards predictability and repeat engagement. Consistency beats intensity. The practical move is restraint. If you choose to play, set a firm budget you're comfortable losing and spread play across several short sessions. Avoid chasing losses. 16. Repositioning cruises exist. Because demand collapses, some of the best cruise values appear when ships move between regions. Repositioning cruises. These sailings often last longer, visit fewer ports, and attract less demand, which pushes prices down dramatically. Cruise lines don't promote them heavily because they don't fit the standard vacation mold. But for passengers with flexible schedules, they can offer exceptional value, quieter ships, and a more relaxed onboard experience. Low demand creates opportunity. The smart move is self-selection. If you enjoy sea days, don't mind one-way itineraries, and value calm over crowds, repositioning cruises can be ideal. The easiest time to overpay is when the vacation feels finished. That's when attention drops and billing locks. 17. Disembarkation fees you rarely notice. By the time the cruise ends, most passengers are mentally finished spending. That's when small charges slip through unnoticed: port fees, service adjustments, taxes, or last-minute onboard purchases that settle automatically. Individually, they seem minor. Together, they add up. Cruise lines rely on timing here. Once disembarkation begins, very few passengers stop to question the final statement. The window to correct errors is short, and silence usually closes it. The last bill is not final, yet. The practical move is simple. Review your onboard account the night before disembarkation, not the morning of. Question anything unclear immediately. 18. Why crew can't always fix problems. When something goes wrong on board, most passengers turn to the nearest crew member and are surprised when the solution stalls. That's not indifference. Authority on a ship is tiered carefully. Many crew members are empowered to assist, but not to override policy. Cruise lines structure this hierarchy to maintain consistency and cost control. Understanding it saves frustration and time. Authority is layered on board. The smart move is escalation with respect. Start with frontline staff, but if the issue affects money, safety, or accommodations, politely ask for a supervisor or guest services manager. Cruise photos aren't sold on quality alone. They're sold at the moment logic is weakest. 19. Photo packages rely on timing, not quality. Cruise photos aren't overpriced because they're exceptional. They're expensive because of when you see them. Photos are presented right after high-emotion moments, formal night, embarkation day, special dinners, when judgment is relaxed and nostalgia kicks in early. Cruise lines understand that people don't buy photos logically. They buy them emotionally before the trip feels real enough to evaluate later. Emotion peaks before logic returns. The practical move is pre-decision. Before the cruise, decide whether photos matter to you at all, and what you're willing to pay. If the answer isn't clear, walk away and revisit on the final day. 20 post-cruise surveys quietly shape your future offers. Most passengers treat post-cruise surveys as optional. Cruise lines don't. These surveys feed internal scoring systems that influence future offers, discounts, and targeted promotions, especially for repeat cruisers. What matters isn't praise or complaints alone, but consistency. Calm, specific feedback signals a rational, engaged customer, someone worth incentivizing to return. You're evaluated after you leave. The smart move is intentional feedback. Complete surveys thoughtfully, noting both positives and one or two clear issues. Avoid emotional extremes. Experienced cruisers don't rely on luck. They rely on recognizing patterns others never see. 21. Why repeat cruisers quietly win? Seasoned cruisers don't win because they know secrets. They win because they recognize patterns. They understand timing, leverage, and which decisions actually matter, and which ones don't. Cruising rewards predictability. Once you see the system clearly, surprises shrink and control returns. That's when cruising becomes less about luck and more about choice. Experience becomes leverage. The takeaway is perspective. Treat each cruise as data, not just a getaway. Track what worked, what didn't, and when decisions mattered most. Cruise lines aren't hiding these tricks out of malice. They're simply running a business built on systems, timing, and predictability. Once you understand those systems, cruising stops feeling expensive, rushed, or confusing, and starts feeling controlled. If even one of these cruise tricks surprised you, this channel is for you. I post videos every week breaking down cruise strategies, rules, and details most passengers never hear about, so you can cruise smarter before you ever step on board. This video is for informational purposes only. It is not professional travel, medical, or financial advice. Always consult qualified experts before making decisions. Thank you so much for watching.